Okay, g'day Dave. How you going?
Doing great, Pato.
That's good. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, yeah, anytime. Glad to be here.
Yeah, no worries. So Dave, I know you've been running for a pretty long time, but when did you start and how did you get into it?
Yeah, I started. I believe it was my dad's race, Andy's Backyard Ultra, and that was I think it was 2021. I think. Basically, we both discovered Backyard Ultras in from seeing Maggie Gurl run in 2019 on YouTube when she ran her 60 yards and won bigs. My dad and I were super intrigued in the Backyard Ultra atmosphere, and we wanted to be a part of it. So my dad, he wanted to be a race director, put on a race, and then I also ran in that race
Oh,
with my dad, actually. So that was in 2021, like a year after we discovered Backyard Ultras.
right. Okay. So did your dad actually, was he one of the race directors for Andy's Backyard Ultra, was he?
That's right. He's the race director, and he ran in it and was the assist, and he beat me. But
Right.
he ran. He wanted to make sure that he beat me by 1 yard, so I ran 27, and he ran 28.
Yeah. And I see that
Yeah.
you and him have raced in a few Backyard Ultras together. You've obviously turned the tables on
Mhm.
him, but is that the one and only time he's beaten you in
Yeah.
a Backyard Ultra?
Oh, let me think. Yeah, I think so. I think that was it. That was his time to shine, and he
Yeah.
shined. So.
Yeah. And apart from running, like when you were younger, did you play any other sports when you were at school or anything like that?
Oh, I definitely played sports on the playground, threw the football around. Never on a, well, I guess I did play some soccer, recreational soccer when I was in kindergarten. When I was maybe, a really young person, like 5 years old.
Yeah.
We went out to the second practice and a teammate kicked my soccer ball into the woods. So then I wasn't really that into soccer after that. That was my introduction to team sports. And so I sort of transitioned into things like Cub Scouts and racing my dad to the front door of the house, maybe when I was, 6 years old or something. And that turned into running.
Yeah. I've noticed on Strava your best times. I mean, they're pretty fast. So are you
Oh,
still,
yeah.
yeah, are you still running like fast, like practicing speed work and stuff like that, or trying to run fast marathons and or anything?
Yeah. So, short answer, no. But long answer, during COVID times, I stopped doing rock climbing and I got back into running and I got into, oh, let's explore Seattle. Let's run my first 30-mile run on my own because there was because of the COVID shutdown, you kind of have to be isolated, right? So that was my time to dabble into marathoning and running faster things like fastest known times, like FKTs. And I was really into that, but the problem was that I would get injured, and I got injured pretty badly after running the Boston Marathon. I had some metatarsal issues, and I that turned a nice workout into not running at all. So I didn't like that at all, and I attributed that to running fast and far, that combination. And so I backed off on that. It's no longer really part of my routine.
Yeah. What is your best marathon time, just out of interest?
My fastest marathon time officially is 2:42.
Yeah.
And but what I like to say is it's faster than that. Like unofficially during an FKT, I ran a 50K at 3:06. So during that I ran a 2:37.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty fast. And back to Andy's Backyard Ultra. Why is it called Andy's Backyard Ultra?
That's um for the same reason that it's Big's Backyard Ultra, where it's named after the dog. My dad's neighbor, or our neighbor, the Tevendales, they own a dog who passed away, but that was Andy.
Right.
And so we named it after Andy.
Okay, cool. Very
And now
good.
it's a memory of Andy.
Yeah. Um, so Capital Backyard Ultra in 2022. It looks like when that was
Oh, yeah.
basically a step up from Andy's, like your first race in the big league, so to speak. I mean, there were a few
Sure. Yeah.
there were a few superstars in that race. Jen Russo and Scott Snell were the last ones standing in the assist, and six
Mhm.
runners broke 50 hours. So, how
Yeah.
impressed were you in that race with watching these runners do so well?
I was blown away. So I during my training, I thought, hey, I'm a fast person. I've done these things. I can put on some high mileage, like 100-mile weeks or more. And I thought I was set to go. I thought I was going to win it, right? I thought I put in all this work, and here I go, and I'm worn out. I can hardly move at all after like 37 yards, right? So, and I'm looking around. There's still a ton of people left. I think maybe like 12 people left or so.
Mm.
And and they kept going to the 48 hours, a lot of them. So I was just blown away and seeing people like, Scott Snell and Jennifer and all of them still going. It really kind of changed my mind about how to train and what a backyard ultra is. I think it kind of changed my mentality about it.
Yeah, yeah. As you mentioned, you did do 37 yards, which was your best result up until that point. Um,
Right.
so, how did you approach that race? Like, what was the strategy?
Oh yeah. So my strategy was to go a little slower than most people. I've never really been the person in a backyard to have the plan. I'm going to finish early, get a ton of rest. I wanted to be at the fastest, kind of in the middle of the pack. Um, so you could say my strategy was to hit, um, you know, relatively speaking, be um, kind of at somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned, I mean, there were all these great runners doing so well. What did you learn from them? Like you watched
Mm,
Scott Snell, for example, win with 61
totally.
yards. Did you think, okay, next time I'm going to do this and this and this to improve?
Mm. Yeah, I remember the so I got some sleep after the race. My race finished at nighttime, so I went to a hotel and slept, and I came back to the race, and they're still running. And when I saw them complete 48 hours, I was thinking at that moment, I still want to be out there. I should be out there. I messed up. Like I did something wrong, and I started reflecting on my race, and I pretty quickly came to the realization that my nutrition was off. I remember not eating enough for my last few loops, and it created a downward spiral, and it got to the point where I just had no energy to keep running. And I think that's when I realized, okay, it's not just about the training; it's also about doing all the little things during the race, and making sure that you follow some sort of strategy that's more diligent, I guess.
Yeah. And was it around that time that you decided, okay, I'm going to go all in on backyard ultras now and see how far I can go?
Yeah. So when the race finished, it um, and Laz was at the race for a period of it, and seeing them qualify for the USA team, it made me, people, whether that was at large or Scott Snell, the winner, it made me think, wow, this is something really cool. They're representing their country. If I just tweak some things, I could do the same thing one day. And I was all in. I thought if I could get through those last few yards, having eaten a little more, I have no idea how far I could go.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of intrigue and representing the country maybe one day, and also just the mystery of how far could I go if I fix some things.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you mentioned you finished when it was still nighttime. Were you kind of thinking, if only I
Yeah.
made it through to the sun coming out, I probably would have
Yeah,
been able to finish further as well. Yeah,
totally. It's a rejuvenation. It seemed like everyone was ready to go for a whole nother day when the sun came up.
yeah,
So that made me feel like, oh, I'd totally be in the same boat as them.
yeah, yeah. Cool. So Ohio's Backyard Ultra. It was your real breakout performance, from what I can tell.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. You broke 50 yards for the first time by running 52 yards, and you finished as the assist. So what do you remember about that one?
Mhm. Right. Yeah. So what I remember is that I went into the race with the goal to qualify for bigs.
Mm,
That was a huge goal of mine. So I was serious, and my crew was equally serious, and that being my dad, my mom, my sister, Mary. They were all really dialed, and we had a whole plan, following sort of the inspiration from Phil Gore, and the training was to a standard that made me feel confident going into the race. So that's kind of setting the stage of how I felt going into it, but what was immediately transparent with the race is that the weather was quite bad.
mm,
Um, it was not it having bad weather and the course being more challenging than most courses. Having roughly 400 feet or more, I think, of gain per day loop was something that was an added difficulty. But I mean, I was extremely excited to go. I hadn't run in a backyard in a long time, and the race director was amazing, and the vibes were great. And I was just having a blast despite all those challenges.
yeah. You mentioned Phil Gore.
Oh yeah, totally.
What type of what type of things did you learn from, I guess, listening to him on podcasts and watching videos of Phil? Like, what type of things did you translate from Phil into your race plan?
Oh yeah. So I knew, okay, I don't want to be Phil Gore. We're all an experiment of one. His body is not my body. His mind is not my mind. But maybe I can pull some things from him to make me a better Dave, right? So one thing being having a better plan. I could have afforded to have a little bit more due diligence, especially towards the difficult parts of these backyards, like in Capital. Once hitting in the last few yards, it seemed that I just completely fell off my nutrition strategy. So I needed to be more on top of things, and so that's the big one. Is just having, okay, on this yard, I'm going to eat this many calories no matter what. This amount of sodium. I am a salty sweater, so keeping up with sodium is really important for me in particular. And I think that's really the big thing that I pulled from Phil. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I think that to be able to make the jump from the 30s to the 50s, I mean, it requires, I think, having self-belief. So, when,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what was it? Yeah, I mean, it's so important making that leap. So, how much did just believing you were able to do it play into making that improvement?
That is a huge call out. I think that's very true that I did have a significant change of mind after Capital, seeing people make the USA team, having this belief that if I just some things, I could go a lot further. I could make the team one day. I could make it to bigs. I really did have that maybe naive thought that I could be one of them. Um, like unpacking that, I'm not entirely sure. I think I am someone who if I get really excited about something, then that can translate into a strong belief in myself. Um, and so I'm really excited about backyards. I increased my excitement from Capital, and that just made me more excited and more having the stronger belief in myself that I could do it. I think part of that is naivety, but There's a little bit of competitive side as well. And just the intrigue of the backyard. I think this is kind of the golden era of backyard ultras. I'm not sure what the future is going to be, and but I think a lot of people, even if they dip their toes into it and have some belief in themselves, they can do extraordinary things right now and make bigs if they want.
Yeah. And what about other people believing in you? Like you mentioned your crew, like were they telling you, Dave, you can do this? And did they believe in you like before you did?
Uh, I think some of both. My mom is someone who isn't the most passionate about backyard ultras. She does think that they're a little dystopian. That backyard ultras are a sport that might get you injured, might cause some danger. But I think she's seeing my excitement for it, and me talking about it a lot, especially with my dad, who's also equally passionate about backyard ultras, him being a race director, right? Yeah, I had a great ecosystem to kind of supercharge that momentum. Yeah.
You did mention the weather at Ohio's. I mean, I know it seemed I think it's held like in a pretty cold time of year in a place where it does get cold, like below freezing temperatures. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely.
it sounds like a pretty hard race.
Yeah, so that race was really difficult because it had all sorts of precipitation during the race. Rain turning to mud, and then mud becoming little frozen mountains overnight. And then when you run on it in the beginning next day, it's really hard to run on. It feels like you're running on spikes, and it's freezing. It started snowing again, and then the snow or the frozen mud became to thaw, and then it became extremely slippery. Uh, yeah, it was tough. That during the night, it was so cold, not having the sun, and you'd have to be bundled up with clothes I would never wear during a run, like a big puffy coat. I was just very unfamiliar to me. I never ran in a puffy coat before this race, so yeah, that's maybe a tip is if you go into a colder backyard, bring some clothes you maybe don't normally run in, but it could save you.
Yeah. Did you? And what got you in the end at that race? Do you
Oh
remember?
yeah, totally. So what happened at the end of the race was, I would say, me. Um, I think it all comes down to sleep deprivation. What happened was I ate a donut. I was very lucid. About to start loop 53, and this is the day course, of course. And uh, so what happened was, um, I started running. The first hill was very steep, right? And I was a little tired. I wanted a little break. So I put my hands on my knees, sort of crouching down a little bit, not a running position at all. And then I just started hallucinating. All right. When I put my hands on my knees, the first time during the race, and I was seeing little tiny basketballs, little orange basketballs like you might see in a gumball machine. And and then this is very distracting, of course. So then I turn my head behind me and I see a very large tree house, and I was very intrigued. Like, where's the ladder? How do you get up there? But there was no ladder, and then I looked down my watch and I realized, okay, I wasted like 5 minutes, and I took my hands off my knees, was prepared to run up the hill again, or at the least hike, but my legs didn't want to move. I kind of froze up. So the way I think about it is I had this mental blip to take a break. That turned into a hallucination, and then it became a physical problem where I just had no ability to move anymore. So it was kind of a combination of things, but it was fundamentally because of my mental blip of wanting to take a break, which I don't think you should take a break on the middle of a hill during a
Yeah.
backyard ultra.
Yeah. Yeah. So the bloke who won, Josh Laker,
Yeah, great guy. Yeah.
yeah, I looked him up though. It doesn't look like he's run a backyard ultra since then. Do you know
Yeah,
any?
so Josh, he's a busy guy. He has a family, and he's a coach for some sports. And I know I think a year later, I think he got really interested in, I think, weight training sorts of things. I could be wrong about that, but something related to that. Um, and he was an excellent backyard ultra runner, excellent ultra runner. He did, I believe, a 24-hour race, maybe that the fall after, I think. But it was actually, I wonder if the course of history would have changed if he had made it to bigs, right? I was the assist. I kept him from getting into bigs,
Right.
because I think it ended up being maybe we were 3 or 4 yards short of him making it into bigs,
Yeah.
through that large list at the end of the day. And that was really hard on me. And I always think about what would have happened if he made it to bigs. Maybe he'd do really well. Like, he was an excellent runner at Ohio's, but I'm not sure if he's run a backyard since.
Mm.
But yeah, difficult story to reflect on.
Yeah. I
But he's a
was.
great guy. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I was going to say that 52 yards, it must have gotten you pretty close, especially like as Biggs was
Right.
getting closer, people were dropping out and the number was getting lower and lower. So you must have only missed
Right.
out by 1 or 2 yards in the end.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. Maybe a few. The truth be told, I didn't really know the exact number needed to, at the time, make it into the team, make it into bigs.
Mm.
But that may have helped me go a little further. Not take a break in the middle of the hill.
Yeah.
If I had known, okay, I'm a few more yards left to solidify my spot. So that was something I kind of talked to my crew about afterward. Like, they didn't know either. The service was kind of bad there as well, so we couldn't get updates about that either, or do a quick Google search to see, okay, what does Dave need or Josh need to make it into bigs? We didn't know that at the time until after the race. So, or at
Mm.
least I didn't. That was a little difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did making Team USA,
Oh
in
yeah.
the 24 team, when did that become a focus or goal?
hmm Yeah, it became a goal. I don't know if it. Let me think. I think it became a goal after Capital, really. I mean, after seeing people that I was running with and chatting with and doing Capital with make it into the USA team, I felt like I could do that one day. So it became a goal pretty soon after that. Um, yeah, but it was something that that was propelled by my Ohio's experience, making it into, past 48 hours or so. It made me feel like, okay, I know how to get this far. What's another half day or more? Like, right, I could do that if I don't take a break on a hill.
Yeah.
So it felt like, okay, I'm in contention for this as long as I do the things I did at Ohio's, maybe have some better weather and just get my head in the game a little more. I could make it.
Yeah. And I mean, Queeny Backyard Ultra. I mean, that was the race that got you into the team. I believe that was
Yeah,
a silver ticket race.
that's right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And that must have been, I mean, that looks like it must have been a pretty epic race because it was just you and Cody Eubanks alone, just the two of you for the last 24 hours of the race. That must
hmm
have been pretty cool.
It was cool. Ironically, we didn't talk together. We didn't talk to each other at all until the last maybe 2 yards.
Right.
It was maybe the second to last one for him, I think. It's pretty funny in hindsight, but it was extremely epic. Um, yeah, wonderful course in St. Louis in Missouri. And Cody's an awesome guy. I got to know him quite well after the race as well. And yeah, it's just a great time. I felt like all the things I was doing was working out really well, and um, yeah, it was just an epic journey. It was just a wonderful time. I think everything was clicking. I felt like I could have gone a lot further as well. It was a bit of a shock when Cody turned around on that 60th yard and I was running alone for the rest of it that night. I was had this bittersweet feeling of, oh, I'm going to make it into the USA team. That's awesome because this is a silver ticket race. But also, I was, just a couple laps earlier thinking about how I was going to make it through the night, make it to 70, 72, and then the sun's going to come up. I'm going to go a lot further. And there was I didn't get to experience my limit, I guess. So that was bittersweet, but it was a great race.
Yeah. So during those 24 hours when it was just you and Cody, I mean, were you just like in the zone? Were you happy just to keep on running the whole time, or were there periods when you were thinking, "Man, I just wish Cody would drop so this race would end"?
No, I didn't. I didn't wish the race ended during the race. I went to the race with the thought this race needs to go to 80 yards or more for us to make um, to make it to the USA team. I don't know. I think that was the goal, is I was going to go into 80s. So during the race, I didn't feel like the race should end anytime soon at any point. But it did get hard. I did hallucinate during that race. I started seeing faces rapid fire at night on the trail. Very, picturesque experience, but it was that was a little hard. I was definitely dealing with some sleep deprivation and relying on caffeine. But just before the race was over, I no longer needed caffeine. Like I got through that part where I had sleep deprivation, and without sleeping, and without taking more caffeine, all of a sudden I felt a lot more awake. So I kind of hit a high point right before the race ended.
Yeah, awesome. Now I saw that you wore a tutu on lap 22 at that race as
Oh
well.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Inspired by the Australians. Yep.
yeah, awesome. How common is that over there? Is there usually one or two people every race, or was this a bit unusual?
It's unusual. Yeah,
Right.
I brought you may have seen another tutu. I brought a tutu for Cody. So
Oh yeah. Okay.
um uh yeah, it's not very common over here. I've seen a lot of recent races where no one's wearing tutus, unfortunately. I think it's a fun thing.
Yeah.
It's like it adds to the party.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's fun. And it's, like, oh, thank you, Australia, for giving this fun tradition.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. So I did read a comment you made on Strava on your Queenie's run that you before and during the race, you're expecting it to go for 75 hours plus, and you didn't think you were going to win
Hmm.
it. So, when did you think to yourself,
Yeah.
hang on, I could win this one?
Mm. Uh, yeah, I think again, like I was expecting the race to go really far, and that's how I was going to make the USA team. I didn't think I was going to win it and make the team, even though it is a silver ticket race. The goal wasn't really to win.
Yeah,
It was to go really, in 75 yards or more. So that's either. I wouldn't say there was really a moment either. Cody looked really good. He was talking better than I was, well, especially when I was sleep deprived around loop 58. So, um, yeah, I don't know. There wasn't really a moment besides the time when I realized he turned around
yeah,
and I couldn't see his headlamp anymore at night that I was thinking, oh, I guess I'm going to win.
yeah,
So that's the time when I noticed I might win.
yeah. So that got you into the USA team, and one of the things I've noticed is you're constantly improving in your
Yeah.
backyard ultra results, including your most recent run at the Sat Champs for Team USA. And on Strava, you
Yeah.
used the two words to describe it: surreal experience.
It was surreal. I when I showed up to Biggs the day beforehand, right when we stopped our car, with loaded with all of our gear. My dad was there. He was my crew along with my sister Mary. Um, just seeing the just that blow up start finish line, there is no finish.
Yeah.
That it just felt like I was in Disneyland or something. The my impression was this is from a dream. Like I'm in a dream right now. This is not actually on planet Earth. It's somewhere else, so, ethereal. And I but one thing was interesting. I did feel like the pictures and the videos of Big's backyard make the venue seem bigger than it is in person. In person, it feels very small and compact, which kind of made it feel a little more trippy, even.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a surreal experience from the time I got there to the very end, and seeing people still running the next day and meeting Laz. Um, so yeah, it was all great. That was the not the first time I saw Laz, but seeing him in his own backyard, I think, um, yeah, that really did make it feel like I was in a dream.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was your strategy going into that race? Had you tinkered
Yeah.
with your plan or done anything different? Or how did you approach it?
Uh, yeah. So everything went besides the sleep deprivation at Queenie. Everything went really well at Queenie. So the the thought was to really take advantage of the times to sleep so that I would not get deprived, sleep
Yeah.
deprived. Um, and um, besides that, the other thing I had was, okay, I'm going to stay in the back of the race, just get the lay of the land, see what other people are doing. There's all these superheroes on the course, like Harvey Lewis and Jennifer and Scott and Meg. All of them I really looked up to. So I thought, hey, this is a should be a learning experience for you. Let's hang out in the back for at the very minimum the first yard just to see what's going on.
Yeah.
I tackled sleep deprivation through I don't know if this is recommended or not. I think I've seen some things where people don't recommend this, but I basically push off caffeine as far as I can go. So at Biggs this time, I didn't have caffeine until yard 50. But at Queenie, I had caffeine on yard 40. So I pushed it out further, and I do think that helped me sleep at Biggs. So I am a proponent of it, but um, yeah, it seemed like a lot of the sleep issues I had at Queenie didn't happen at Biggs.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And what were the nerves like? I mean, I would have been nervous. Like, were you nervous?
I uh, I was excited.
Yeah.
I was not nervous.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was nervous at all. It's too long of a race and it's too slow of a race to get nervous.
Yeah.
I was actually nervous. I guess you could say I had some nerves going, maybe some adrenaline at the end of the third day. Right before that third night was coming. It did feel like I needed to run some of the uphills I wouldn't normally do, just to finish the yard on time. And I was hitting, I think, closer to 57 minutes at the end of that third day, which was a little unsettling. But I didn't feel nervous for the next yard. I felt like some adrenaline, I'd say.
Hmm. Now, the Biggs Day course is known to be extremely tough. How did you find the day course?
It was tough. Yeah, it was tough. It's not a course that's going to be um, just one loop isn't going to be hard, right? But uh, once you do a bunch of them, it does start feeling like, okay, if this course was a little flatter, I probably wouldn't feel this bad right now. You start realizing as you go further, like I was saying, that you might have to start running up some of the hills that you normally walk, and uh, I think there's just this kind of slow trickle of difficulty as the race progresses that isn't always apparent at the beginning. There are some technical rocks, some big step ups or some maybe like a route here and there or something, but it really wasn't that bad. I don't think it was just one aspect of a single loop was very hard at all.
Mm.
It's just so maybe some people would disagree about that, but I didn't think the course was extremely technical, but it was technical for a backyard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know it's pretty common for runners to fall here and there on the day course. Did you have many or any falls?
Um, I believe I did. I think I fell a couple times,
Yeah,
or at least a couple, but it wasn't anything bad. It
yeah,
would be like, oh no, like a normal stumble on a trail. I'm not injured or anything, but you feel like, oh, I need to look a little closer at my feet next time, or I'm running too close to the person in front of me.
yeah,
That would be the time when I usually fall. Is there's just not enough distance between me and Ron in front of me or something.
yeah, sure. So the Sat Champs, I mean, it's such a different kind of backyard ultra because of the team aspect to it. So how did Team USA approach the race?
Hmm. Yeah, how did Team USA approach the race? I think we were all individuals. I know going into it, I think a lot of this had the belief of, okay, let's all, we're all pretty experienced. Let's just, we all got here for a reason. Let's do the things that work for us independently. That being said, I know there was some well, there was a lot of camaraderie, of course, a lot of okay, let's we're Team USA, chanting and all of that, especially from the crew that supported us while we were there. That was really awesome. Um, so that lent itself to us going further as a team, of course. But um, hmm, yeah, there was I know an effort from our team to there's some of our team to like work together at night, run together. Like I know Harvey was leading a lot of this kind of group pace strategy. Um, and I did play a role in that a little bit. Like I would run with him on that third night in particular. And it didn't work for me so well. I do think part of my downfall of that race was not listening to my own body and doing my own thing on that third night. But there was this strategy to run together sometimes. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Now, I can imagine that running with other people would be especially helpful if you're just
Hmm.
feeling a down, like you're just feeling in a down moment, a low point of the race, running with other people would
Hmm.
help. So
True. Yeah.
yeah, so you did run with Harvey Lewis and his group. Was that just to like were you in a low point during that time, or did you just think, oh, let's do something different?
Oh yeah. So I thought it was fun. Like I
Yeah,
mean, Harvey's and the rest of the team are clearly having a lot of fun working together as a team, doing a pace that was a little slower than I would like, maybe a little bit more frequent walking. Um, Sometimes it was I think it was easier for me to focus before then doing my own thing. Like I was running with just one other person, just Ron Wireman,
mm,
and we had a really good flow at the beginning of that third night. But I wanted to mix it up and I wanted to be part of the party. So that's when I ran with Harvey and the rest of them. But it just wasn't the flow that came natural to me. And it did feel like okay, I'm walking maybe less at one time, like less like for one period of time, I wasn't walking as much, but there was more frequent walking. So it was more stop and go kind of feeling.
yeah,
And I think that didn't work for me as much. Um, so there was some kind of impromptu strategy with the team, but I would say if I were to talk to myself in the past, I would say, hey, you should probably just do your own thing at nights. Um, Maybe run with one other person that seems to be doing what you're doing, or if they're similar, but don't try to subscribe to something that may not be working for you. I had a few yards running with kind of the bigger group, and it didn't. I think it was just didn't contribute to my success in that race
Yeah,
as much. But
yeah,
yeah,
sure.
it was fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, I remember like when I ran a backyard ultra last year, and I was running on my own for a lot of the race, and I was going through a really low point. So I ran with some others, and it was the funnest part of
Hmm.
my race. But they were
Yeah.
they were walking for 600 meters, then running for 400. So that meant that they were walking really fast. And then when they were running quite fast as well. So even though it was really, really fun, I had to
Hmm.
stop running with them after a few yards just because it was just too fast for me.
Yeah, it seems similar to to my experience. And yeah, I think and you've experienced this as well. Like over the course of the race, the strategy might change depending on how you're feeling.
Yeah.
So it's important to be adaptable. I think consistency only gets you so far. Once the consistency of running the same thing over and over, or doing the same kind of thing you've always been doing, doesn't work anymore, you should probably change it. I think I probably changed my strategy when it didn't need to be changed on that third night.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So with the set champs, it's interesting because all the other countries involved, they're designing courses that are flat and easy, conducive
Hmm.
to run as high a totals as possible. Whereas USA run at bigs every year or every second year, every time there's a set champs. So, I
Yeah.
mean, do you think bigs should be saved for the individual championships, or and maybe run the set champs on a flatter course, or are you happy for Team USA to run at bigs every set champs? Or is there any talk amongst the USA runners, hey, we should be doing this on a flatter course?
I think a lot of them were talking about it. I know I've talked about it with a number of the USA team, for an example. I'd be surprised if anyone's not talking about it on the USA team. I
Yeah,
think it's something that's definitely a hot topic. My heart says bigs should, no matter what the year, if you're on in the USA team, you should go to bigs. I think that because I had that surreal experience, right? I wouldn't want to take that from someone else.
yeah,
I think the venue plays a big role in that, and just knowing, oh, this is the same place where it all began. I think that makes it feel like Disneyland to me. But the problem is once you start thinking about it competitively and start taking a step back and realizing, oh, this is not just a national event. This is like a worldwide satellite event.
yeah,
And we're competing against the other countries. That's when I think it starts making more logical sense to think about, oh yeah, let's flatten some things out. Maybe we need an easier course, right, for the national champs. But um, uh, yeah, I don't know, it's interesting. I wouldn't say I'm diehard in a certain opinion or not. I think it's hard to speak about something that doesn't exist yet. Maybe this new USA venue is really great and it seems like a no-brainer, but until it happens, it's hard to have a distinct opinion.
yeah, sure. I mean, just thinking out loud, I mean, to me, Capital seems like a course that's really conducive to high totals. I mean, it sounds to
Yeah,
me like
sure.
that would be a perfect course for Team USA to run the set champs at.
I think so. That's what a lot of people believe. That's the common one people talk about. It's historically one of the most competitive ones in the US, and it brings up some of the best totals. Uh, and it's a great venue. The race director is great as well, Sarah Smith. But and I had a wonderful experience there. I think yeah, that's definitely worthy of consideration if there is a national course that's different than the Bigs course on those odd years, then I would definitely rank Capital maybe the highest to consider. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the EU it's changed. Capital's even got better since the EU ran there. There's actually like an undercover area for runners to
It's
go.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, they made this shelter that's huge, and you can put. I mean, you don't really need any gear. You can just show up to the race with maybe a chair or a cot, and you'll be good. As far as like your own station goes, maybe you want a cooler for some food, but you don't really need a canopy while you're there.
Yeah.
Maybe if it's really windy, but yeah, it lends itself to being kind of a no-brainer location to host a really big event, a really big backyard.
Yeah, cool. And how did you at Sat Champs? How did the race end for you?
So it ended. Um, the way it worked was I wasn't sleep deprived like I was at um, as like I was at Queeny. Uh, I didn't really feel like I was having any food digestive issues at all, or any other thing. The big thing that happened was my legs started to feel like they had a lot of lactic acid buildup, something like that, as if I just ran a really fast marathon or a fast 5K and I'm just spent, right? And that happened out of the blue. And it's really hard to say what happened. It could have been because I stepped outside of my flow as far as that strategy goes, running with that group at the end. But what I can say was Harvey did pull me through that last yard, the one before my last attempt, because I was in extreme pain in my legs. My quads felt like they were on fire, and he pulled me through that whole 4 miles, right? And so I mean, it's not a super flat road course either. There are some hills, and some of that just feels like, oh, I want this to be easier. And yeah, he pulled me through that last hour. So thanks, Harvey. But when I started that next one, I felt I think I kind of mentally quit. Honestly, I ran a little bit further and turned around. And I mean, when you turn around, you're kind of that means you're kind of mentally done. It's I just wasn't having fun. You know, when your legs are feeling like they're on fire, um, it's no longer fun. And a backyard should be fun, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why I do them.
Mm.
Now, in hindsight, maybe that was a cue to, oh, maybe I need to take some pain medication or something, or maybe I need to massage my legs more, or any number of other things that might relieve some of that pain. Then there's an argument that, oh, maybe I need to just be tougher, like mentally, right? So I think all of the above is probably true. So there are lots of things that I have kind of now learned that I think will make me a lot better,
Yeah.
to both prohibit that from happening, and also if it does happen, I think I have the desire now to get me through that mentally.
Yeah. Um, it's interesting that you ran through that 64th yard with those really tired legs. So
Yeah.
you knew you could do it, but like you said, it was just like you just didn't want to by the sound, or you just reached the end by the sound of things.
Yeah, it was um, excruciating.
Yeah.
I was I was moaning and groaning, and Harvey's like, "Come on, Dave, come on, you got this," patting me on the back,
Yeah.
and he's definitely correcting my. I was no longer a positive spirit, and he was positive enough to kind of correct that and make me keep going.
Yeah.
Um, but it's hard to start another yard knowing what that last one felt like. Yeah, so yeah, it was tough. Yeah.
64 yards is awesome. And were you the youngest? I think Levi was actually the youngest on the team, but there was three members of the team born in the 90s. So you've got a good spread of young to veterans in the USA team.
Yeah, I may have been the youngest, I think, at 27.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, I actually don't know exactly what Levi's age is, but yeah, I was one of the younger guys, and then Bo was 28. And there's a little bit of imposter syndrome. I do think it helps to be a little older in these races. Then again, you see Ihor, and he and him getting the assist at bigs makes me realize, oh, maybe I should be fine. So I didn't really know how much age played a role in any of my thought process.
Yeah. The I mean, there's not that many younger runners, but there are some of the best runners are like younger, like Ehor, like you mentioned, and Sam Harvey from New Zealand as well, who
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
yeah, so I mean there's some really, and I mean, and you as well. I mean, and I think you're a faster, and all of something you've all got in common is that you can all run faster as well. Like your 2 hour
Mm,
30 something marathon. That's pretty impressive. Um,
yeah, thank
yeah.
you. Yeah,
Um,
it could, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So I read on Facebook recently that you'll be traveling to the UK to run at Suffolk this year.
That's right. I'm extremely excited.
Yeah.
I've been to the UK once before. I have a family friend in Cambridge, and I'm excited to see him and do some kind of vacationing with my girlfriend's going to go with me and crew me as well at the race. And I think Suffolk is going to be an extraordinary experience with so many runners there. I think it's going to be like 350 or 400 runners there. It's going to be by far the biggest backyard I've ever run in. And it is also it'll be the first backyard I do that will be on the flatter side.
Mm.
I don't know if that's going to help me or not. I think it will. Um, and the weather seemed, I would assume, would be pretty good that time of year. It seems like historically it's been pretty nice in June. And um, yeah, I'm more eager than ever to throw my hat in the ring and see what I can do. See if I can make the bigs championships. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love following Suffolk. It's definitely a race that attracts some really good runners, and it's got a history of some big numbers. So, yeah, obviously the plan is to run a big number yourself and qualify for the bigs.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, yeah. And I saw you put a call out on Facebook seeing if there's anyone out there who can help with crewing. Have you had much?
Yes.
Yeah, have you got much help yet?
Yeah, a couple of people reached out. Nothing concrete. They basically said, "Hey, I want to be like a friendly face and be sure to talk to me. I'm local to the area, or I know a guy. Let's see if he gets back to me." So I'm still kind of patiently waiting. This is kind of a brand new ask I've had. I do think crewing means a lot in backyards. Having that shared experience can help us go further, and I think it's kind of 50-50 in the backyard. It's not just the success is not just on the runner, it's also the people supporting them. Um, so it's something I find to be extremely important. And I do have my girlfriend who will be crewing me, and that's great. But I do think we would be stronger and have a better experience if we had more people, especially if we want to make this standard, which is quite high.
Yeah, yeah. So personally, I think about 80 yards will be
Yeah,
what
me
is
too. Yeah.
required to make it. Do you agree with that about 80?
Yeah, if I just look at the numbers, it seems to be around there. I think last time I checked, it was somewhere in the low 80s, right?
Yeah,
Like 83 or so, or maybe 80. I don't know. But a lot of things could happen before the race. Maybe some of those national champions don't go to the race, or someone pulls out, or any number of things could happen. It could be that a lot of people qualify, and it just makes it even harder to get in.
yeah,
So I am definitely expecting it to be, in the 80s for sure. And I don't think that's out of reach. I think any number of people could do that. Just given the correct circumstances and the motivation to do so.
yeah, sure. So hypothetically, let's say you finish as the last one standing at Suffolk with,
Okay.
and you've run 75 yards to finish as the last one standing. Have you thought about your next play, or is Suffolk going to be just like the one chance you're giving yourself to qualify for bigs?
Yeah, this is definitely the one chance. What I like to do is not run too many backyards in one year. I do have this. I like to have a really long training plan up to the backyard, and then afterward, I have this cool down period where I feel like I'm just not mentally ready for the next backyard. I like to feel like I haven't done one in ages before I go into one. It's definitely not on the radar to do a backyard other than Biggs afterward if I make it. If I don't make it, maybe I'll do a backyard that's uh, a little smaller or something, like maybe my dad's race. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, cool. So since running your first backyard, like where do you feel like you've improved the most in that backyard races?
What do I think I've improved the most? I think well, my training's changed quite a bit. Um, I I'm not someone in the camp to believe that speed is extremely necessary to perform well in the backyard. I think there are plenty of examples that you can look at. People do great without much speed behind them. It does kind of allow me to go on a run and just listen to myself, not feel like I need to do a certain thing to be a good backyard ultra runner. And I think it just creates this more healthy relationship where I run because I like running and I love running, but not because I need to do this thing so that I can get my, speed PR in the marathon or something where I know I'm not going to be able to do it unless I put in this really hard workout or something. I feel like what's important in a backyard is going into it feeling very confident that you're healthy, that you've done the things that allow you to do well. But I think that's all very individualistic. I think only you can decide personally what it means to be ready for that backyard race. So I think it just creates a healthier relationship with me and running.
Yeah. Um, are there any specific elements you're going to focus on to keep improving?
Mm. Yeah, um, I think the big thing I do is just see, okay, who's doing well? What are they doing right? Then where are the things that went wrong that last backyard race? How can I improve on that? And so for Biggs, for an example, I think I need to listen to myself and do my own plan, and maybe do some preventative measures like some weight training to maybe prohibit um, me having that kind of lactic acid buildup sensation I had at Biggs. Maybe have some kind of pain relief um, plan in place, whether that be massage or something else or icing if that happens again. Those are all intriguing things I haven't done yet. I haven't employed those things at a backyard yet. So that might be the ticket for me to go further.
Mm. So I know you ran across the USA. Was it last year or the year before you did that run?
It was the spring and summer of 2023. Yeah, from May to July.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Do you have any more plans to do anything like that?
I want to do the Appalachian Trail one day, but it's definitely not that high on the list. Right now, I'm too much into the backyard ultra atmosphere where I feel like I haven't proven myself yet. And like I said, I feel like it's the golden age of backyard ultras. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah,
I don't want to feel like I'm wasting that opportunity. I think now is the time if you want to be part of something cool like backyards, you gotta do those backyard races.
yeah,
So maybe I'll put more mental focus into another journey run later, but it was a little difficult logistically. I had to, quit my job to do that thing for a run of that size, and it is something I still dream about all the time. Running across the country was such an amazing experience, and I dream about it all the time. I daydream about it. How instead of running in the morning, I wish I could just keep running,
Yeah.
and not have to stop running and then do some work and then run later. Um, uh, yeah, there's something about multi-day journey running that still has a huge place in my heart. I would feel like I didn't live a fulfilled life if I didn't do kind of meet that again. Um, but I feel like it's just a wasted opportunity for backyards if I do something like that in place of backyards right now.
Yeah, sure. Now, you mentioned that you think this is the golden age of backyards, and I mean, I agree with you. I mean, at the moment, the world record's 110 hours. Do you see, what do you see the future of that record?
I think an amazing record, of course. Credit to everyone who's gone gone 100 yards or more, or anyone who's gone further than me, right? I think they deserve all the credit in the world.
Yeah,
Uh, but I mean, year after year or month after month, really, we're seeing a lot of changes in backyard ultra records, no matter what scale it is. And I don't feel like 110 yards is some kind of magic number that can't be broken. I think the Belgians even said, "Oh, we could have." At least one of them said we could have gone a little further than that, but we just decided to stop as a team.
yeah,
Um, so I feel like, okay, this is pushing the limits of human endurance, and we're all in this together as humans. So if some human does 110, that means all humans should be able to do that in
mm,
theory, I guess. So uh, I feel like the record could be much further, something that we don't even know yet. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so, Dave, I'd like to ask my guests for their three backyard ultra tips. What are your three backyard ultra tips?
Oh yeah. Let me think. So my first tip I would say is I would say okay. My first tip is that I do believe that everyone is an experiment of one. I think just because it works for me or just it works for Pato doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I think that means if for me, I need to go, I'm doing 52-minute yards on some course, then that doesn't mean that you need to do that too. I think everyone should just treat themselves as, or just listen to themselves, when you're out there,
Mm,
and whether that be in training or in the race. So I think that's important, something I remind myself as well. Um, yeah, my second tip would be that I believe there's no real thing as a bad yard. I think that's a common thing that's being said is that, oh, you can't have a bad yard in a backyard ultra. And I know people mean that this means go you can't go 61 minutes in a backyard ultra in one loop. But to me, I think I'm seeing a lot of people misinterpret that as they can't have a 56-minute loop or something because that's too close to 1 hour, or they can't have a loop where it was uncomfortable. I think you can have tons of loops that are bad in that sense. I know I have, where I've done like a 59-minute loop and I've come back out and done something uh, a lot faster, so then I can keep going. So um, I just believe that what's important in a backyard is that you finish the loop within an hour, and if you've done that, you're tied for first. So there's in that sense, there's no such thing as a backyard in my mind. That's
yeah,
my second tip.
yeah,
My third tip is that I do believe backyard ultras should be really fun, and you should have a fun time out there. You should have fun even when it's not fun.
mm,
So if you're hurting out there, just remind yourself this is an amazing event that I get to be a part of, and I'm having so much fun. You should lie to yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. Um, yeah. Well, thanks heaps for coming on. all the best at Suffolk. I love watching that race, and you're definitely adding an extra element of interest to it, like coming from the US to run in the UK. I reckon it's going to be
Oh, thanks,
awesome.
Pato. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun to watch. Have you been on a run today yet, or?
Yes, I've been on a run today. I ran like 8.5 miles or so this morning, and then I ran a little bit more in the after work. I like to have that running sandwich, and yeah, I just love running. So it's my reward in the morning, and it's my reward after work.
Yeah, very good. Well, yeah. Look, thanks heaps for coming on, Dave. All the best at Suffolk. I hope you qualify for bigs. I know you can do it. Let's just
Thank
hope
you.
that yeah. Let's just hope that there's some other runners there who can take you into the 80s and beyond. And I'm sure there will be.
Oh yes, I'm sure too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Well, all the best. Great chatting, and we'll keep in touch for sure.
All right, thanks, Pato.